This is Growth Mode On, the podcast for business owners who are done guessing and ready to build with intention. Flip the switch, build your brand, grow your business. When your business depends on you explaining it, your authority resets, your growth caps out. And that's exactly what YouTube is meant to fix. If you're already running a successful business, this isn't about more content or more noise. It's about leverage. It's about building a brand that works even when you're not in the room. Most companies hit a point where growth feels heavier than it should. The message lives in the founder's head. The pitch changes depending on who's talking. The reputation is strong locally, but fragmented digitally. YouTube done right isn't social media. It's a trust engine. It's where future customers decide who they believe before they ever reach out. Today, we're breaking down the real reason YouTube scales business growth and how branding turns effort into authority. Here's the takeaway. Growth breaks when it depends entirely on you. The businesses that scale aren't louder, they're clearer. Their message is consistent. Their authority shows up before they do. That's the real power of YouTube. Not views, not virality, trust at scale. This is Growth Mode On. Flip the switch, build your brand, and grow your business. So Jason, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do and what makes you special?
All right. Well, thank you. I'd love to. So my name is Jason McKenzie. I have been a business owner for over 20 years. More than half of my life, I've been a business owner, and I've owned multiple businesses, been involved in multiple businesses, literally consulted and advised hundreds of companies over the years. And currently, I am running a few different businesses, but the main couple is Grazora.com. That's Grazora. And we're all about helping business owners move from being stuck and trapped in their business to having freedom so that they can accomplish the purpose that they have here in life, or the purposes. And then my second is Boise Web, where we build websites and we host websites and we help small business owners with their online presence. And then I also have written a book on local SEO. So I've been playing in this space for decades.
That's nice. That's wonderful. I mean, I know websites are still like super important, and then integrating that. Actually, integrating. I just read a book on SEO. I didn't read your book yet, but I will read your book. But that you've got your website, and now you're releasing your YouTube videos, and then in every description you put your website, you're building authority for your website, which Google, being the largest search engine in the world, when someone Googles something, your website has more weight.
The amazing thing is when you build a YouTube channel, even if you don't put your website in every single one, Google's advanced enough. They know that this YouTube channel represents this business, and the business is a standalone entity, and they have all these pieces. So there's your YouTube, there's your website, there's your social, and it all feeds back to the business and the credibility of that business. And as you do better over here on YouTube, it's actually going to help you in all areas because it builds the credibility up of your organization.
Yeah, and that's just such an important part that every business should be tapping into. That's for sure. Yep. So I want to explore the idea that businesses that rely on their founders to explain it, their growth is limited. And then YouTube, used strategically, is one of like the cleanest ways to break through that. So starting off, I kind of want to reposition on YouTube and talk a little bit about YouTube. So Jason, what is your take on YouTube?
Well, let me tell you what YouTube's not, if I can. So many people think that YouTube is like Facebook because Facebook came in, grabbed Instagram. Now you have these short form videos, and they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. TikTok's all about short form as well. And then YouTube came in and they brought the short form there as well. And so people are like, oh, YouTube's just trying to be another one of those. But YouTube's really not. YouTube is almost like combining cable TV from back in the day with a library. And the reason those two blend together to create YouTube is you literally get to choose what channel you're watching at any moment, just like cable TV. But YouTube is the world's second largest search engine, and people are using it for research, to learn, to study, and just like a library, also to entertain. So to me, that's what YouTube really is the combination of those two things.
That is awesome. That was like really, really well said. And that was one of my huge fails for like business owners that look at, they'll view YouTube as like a social media site. And then in their strategy for using YouTube, that's a huge fail.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that people get that perception though, because it has a spot for comments, and you have these profiles, and you have these super big creators that are on there creating amazing content. And so it kind of does have a bit of that vibe to it, but that really isn't the soul.
And I like the way you said it. It's a library. It's a 24/7 library, which separates it from that scrolling feed that you get on Facebook. Like sometimes I'll be scrolling through Facebook because I do like Facebook a little bit for the shorts, and I'll be scrolling through and I'll see this awesome restaurant in Houston and I'll think, okay, that's where I want to go with my wife. But then I'll keep scrolling and then I'll keep scrolling and then I lose it completely. And I don't know how to find it again. So I've developed a system where as soon as I see it, I email it to my wife. So then it's recorded in her email, and then I can say, okay, I can go back and find it. But then I think that's, you hit it right on the nails, like 24/7 library where people can go and find stuff. And then, like you said, like Google is the YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So being able to search stuff is easy.
Yeah, by design. And the other cool thing with YouTube that you don't get as much with Google is the more searches you do, the more YouTube knows who you are. And they know what it is you're thinking about. And they know that that changes over time and that you're going to shift and adjust. But they know that, oh, right now I'm really into bowling. I'm doing all this bowling research. I'm learning this. I'm doing this. I'm following these. And so they start catering content to you saying, this is what you're interested in. Let me give you more of that. And then when you start shifting away from it, they'll adapt and start shifting wherever you go too. So they're trying to feed you without you even having to ask what it is you're looking for.
And that is key. That's what everyone calls the algorithm, right?
Yep.
Everyone's been talking. That's a big talk. The algorithm. Make it for the algorithm. Do it for the algorithm. Yeah. I mean, and that's great. I mean, that's like hitting it right on the nail. I love that. So then with a company, right? You've got a company now, and now that they know this, that the algorithm is feeding people content that they're interested in, right? So then we're going to transition into branding, but before we transition into branding, a company can now use that to their advantage by producing content on YouTube for their customers and helping those, but not the customers, because they're not the customers yet. I think there's a huge difference between customers and viewers. Viewers are not customers yet. Right. What do you think about a company that now can actually use YouTube to help the viewer down that buyer's journey to actually buying their products or their services?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly underutilized tool. And here's why I think that. People will go out and they're like, oh, I've got to run ads on social media to bring in new customers. I've got to run ads on Google to bring in new customers. And customers, Google calls it the ZMOT, zero moment of truth. And the ZMOT, as Google calls it, is this point where someone goes from thinking about to ready to buy. And when they hit the ZMOT, that's when traditional Google ads were really effective, because someone types in, I want to buy a car. Boom, you're hit with all these ads. I need insurance. Boom, all these ads. But there's a whole phase before they hit that zero moment of truth where you have the opportunity to create this knowledge that you can share with them. And that's the research phase. And so many people don't utilize the research phase. But think about your own buying process. When you go out to buy something, very rarely do we just go out and we're like, oh, that's the one I'm going to grab. We think about it. We see what options are out there. We study. We look at features. Who is it that's teaching you about the features? Who's teaching you about all the options that are out there? If you create the content that people are running across over and over and over, and your organization is the educator, who do they now trust? They trust the educator. We're all trained from the time we're little kids till we're grown-ups. You're in a school system and there's somebody that you trust, and they're teaching. And that's the way we've all been programmed. We learn from our parents. They teach us and we learn and we trust. If the business is doing that, man, they have an opportunity, because who do you want to go to? The guy that just ran an ad that you saw the first time, or someone that you've seen 10, 20 hours of their content during the research phase?
Yeah. And you know what? And now is the perfect time jump into branding, right?
Okay.
So now in a nutshell, tell me, but tell the viewers and the listeners, what is branding in a nutshell?
So to me, I want to first say what a brand is. So a brand is the soul and the personality of a company. And so branding is ensuring that soul and that personality is consistently presented to the world.
Nice. That's really nice. And the reason I wanted to bring it in right now is because when you said, we are socially conditioned into this process of learning where that we learn from the teacher and we trust the teacher. And then branding is also about that, about teaching, about trust, about visibility.
One of the things that's most shocking to me in the branding world is, and I think that the same principle applies in a lot of different areas like exercise, weightlifting, whatever we excel at, we keep doing. You look at the biggest brands in the world, and they're dumping piles of cash into reminding all of us who they are, who they help, how they help, when they help, and what it's like when you interact with them. I mean, the biggest soft drink companies in the world, they don't ever stop spending money. And yet we're like, well, there's only two options, really. Like, there's not that many choices. But they know as soon as they stop, they start fading into the background. So it's something that isn't a one and done. It's just a natural part of life, just like breathing is for us. We don't even have to think about it. It's just part of us. And for a company to be alive, making sure that you're constantly putting that brand out there or branding is almost like a breath of air for the company to stay alive.
Exactly. And it's funny because I love talking about Buc-ee's. Do you know Buc-ee's?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. I love talking about Buc-ee's because Buc-ee's is amazing on their branding. Like they have branded it so well. And I'm driving down the highway and I'm waiting to see the sign that says Buc-ee's in 30 miles, cleanest bathrooms in the world, 30 miles, and then they come up with these really, really cool branding like ads that, and you get used to that. The minute they stop doing that, they're going to fade away.
Right. 100%. I'm in Idaho. There's no Buc-ee's within hundreds of miles. Everyone in Idaho knows who Buc-ee's is. And I was just in a meeting literally this week and someone's talking and they're talking about different things. And they're like, did you hear that a couple of Buc-ee's people have come to Boise multiple times and they're scoping out Boise? But the concern is the spot they want, they can't handle all the traffic they're going to have. So they're like, we're a couple of years out before we have the infrastructure. But people are excited about Buc-ee's, and Buc-ee's hasn't even tried to enter our market because they've done so well where they've positioned themselves and how they present themselves.
I go to San Antonio pretty often, and there's a Buc-ee's in Luling, which is the biggest Buc-ee's in the country, in the world. It's the biggest Buc-ee's in the world. And it's jam-packed 24/7. Like they actually have a traffic problem going in there, It's like Disney World.
It's like, oh, we can wait to get out of the sports game, or we can wait to get in and out of Buc-ee's.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that, and the reason I'm bringing this up too, and I'm just kind of like supporting exactly what you said about the minute you stop, it fades away. And there's another convenience store gas station called the Texan. And they were copying Buc-ee's to the T. I mean, you walk into the Texan and you think you're in Buc-ee's, but it's branded the Texan. And then I remember so they would have the billboard so that when you're driving, you see it and okay, 40 miles till the Texan. And that billboard, they took it down. So then when I was driving, I literally forgot about the Texan. It's like, okay, it's like, we're going to stop at Buc-ee's. Sometimes I will choose the Texan because it's not as crowded as Buc-ee's.
Another interesting example of this is called Wall Drug. And was a drugstore and it just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, my father lived in the Netherlands for a part of his life. And when he was, my father's originally from Nevada. He's in the Netherlands and he sees a billboard for Wall Drug, and it tells how many miles it is to Wall Drug. This is way back in the day. And for years that stuck in his brain because he never knew what Wall Drug was. Well, we're driving across the country and he's like, Wall Drug, I have to stop there. Now, how many people that have a drugstore in nowhere North America is going to put a billboard up in the Netherlands, right? It just doesn't happen.
That's wild.
But they did it, and it stuck in his brain for 30 years until he had a chance to make it there to see Wall Drug.
That is wild. And you know what? And then that kind of brings me to the topic of, this is not new information. Like these guys, I mean, you know, this is way before Buc-ee's even started putting that sign up. I mean, it's just using stuff that works. And for viewers and for listeners and businesses, founders that want to grow their business, they don't have to come up with something new. You know, what they need to do is understand what works, and branding works, and understanding, you know, like, okay, now how can you use branding for your business and grow it and break that ceiling where the business relies on, like right now, I'm kind of targeting those founders that if they walked away from their business, the business would collapse. And that actually happened to me. I opened up in 1999 or 1998, I opened up a martial arts school. And I grew the school. I had a lot of students. And I went away for 5 weeks to help my dad on a business trip. And when I came back, like I had like 8 students, you know, because when the founder walks away, everything breaks.
Yeah.
So then how now using branding, using YouTube strategically so that you can walk away. You know, you're making $2 million a year. You want to grow your business and you want to walk away and be able to let it grow. So let's talk about some strategies. Like, how can we use branding with YouTube strategically so that we can grow a business and like you said, a 24/7 library sales funnel that's working even when you're not there?
You know, I think one of the first principles we should make sure people understand is that the world didn't change, or the principles didn't change because of the internet. And that's why it works to go from Buc-ee's and talk about the Texan, talk about Wall Drug, and then move right back to the internet. I have a good friend who says there's no such thing as internet marketing. There's marketing, and then there's using the internet to market. And same thing with YouTube. There's not YouTube branding. There's branding that you're going to do on YouTube. And so it's these same principles that you can pick up, you can move them and put them in YouTube, and it'll work because the principle works. And that's the amazing thing. So with YouTube, like we were talking about, you literally have millions of people going onto there, and they're going there to, 1, be entertained, and 2, to be educated. And so if you can, as a business, create content that's going to entertain the people that want some factor of entertainment, but also enlighten them and educate them around your industry, your business, and your products and services, you have just literally like won the lottery. Because now you have a platform that's going to put you in front of people. You film it once, and they're putting you in front of people for as long as that video is effective. So if you create a good video, that good video is going to live for years.
Forever. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got some videos that I created like 9 years ago that are still getting views, you know?
Yeah. And the amazing thing, if I could, just really quick, I created one how-to video because I was trying to do something on my computer and I couldn't figure it out. And I went online, and it took me a long time to find the answer. I was like, this is silly. And so I created myself a how-to video to remind myself, and this was a really long time. I created that video to remind myself how to do that thing because it took so long to find the answer. That video, I put it on a channel with no followers, no subscribers. I don't remember, but I think it was at 70,000 views in a couple of years. And I just kind of set that off to the side. And I came back, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? And people were searching for that same answer. And because of that, I was getting in front of people when all I did was like, Jason, this is how you do this thing. Everyone else needed that same answer. And they were coming and watching that video over and over. And I did nothing to promote it. And that's an example of what YouTube can do for anybody.
I've been working on this new concept that I learned about, and it's called awareness, trust, and conversion. So when you're creating YouTube videos, you've got and what you said, the how-to video is an awareness video that people are searching. You want to get people on that buyer's journey, and that how-to video is like the top of the funnel. And then you need to go into trust. So you're building trust through videos, which would be like a good example would be a testimonial, or someone that's using the product, or someone that's using the service and is talking about it, right? That starts to build trust. Then you go into conversion, like the videos that convert, that right down at the bottom of the funnel are actually going to convert. And that would be like, how much does it cost? How much does it cost to use that system? And then they're doing their research, and they're actually, how much does it cost to do, like I have a company that's a foundation repair company. We did a video, how much does it cost to do foundation repair? And that's a very good conversion video.
Oh, man, I think you've nailed that right on the head, because people go right through that process. They're thinking, okay, they walk into this fog, and they're looking to blow some of the fog away. Oh, here's my options. Oh, interesting. This option does work. This option works. Ooh, I'm getting bad vibes on this option. I'm going to set that one to the side. Okay, now I have these two options left. Ooh, I need to find out more about the two options. Man, the way you've laid that out, pure genius.
Thanks. Yeah, and then it's all about the viewer, right? YouTube, and that's something that people a lot of times don't understand, and they make videos talking about themselves. And then they're not thinking about the viewer. They're just thinking, oh yeah, I've got all these awards. I won this. I'm doing this. Instead of like, how is this going to help you? How is this going to solve your problem? Let me talk about your problem and how we are going to help you solve your problem. And I think that's where a lot of business owners get it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, could you imagine if you were a hitchhiker and you've got your thumb up and you're trying to get up to, you're trying to get across maybe to the next town or something, your thumb's up, someone slows down and they say, hey, I see you're looking for a ride. Yeah, can you take me to so-and-so town? Well, let me tell you how I made this car. This was my father's car, and I rebuilt this car. The hitchhiker doesn't care. Your potential customer is that hitchhiker. They're saying, I'm stuck here. I need to get over here, and I don't know how to do it. So if you're tooting your own horn about how you repaired this car, nobody's going to care, because it's not solving their problem. It's just bragging about how great you think you are.
Yep. And then touching on branding. Branding is what helps people remember you, right? So you make that first video, and then you've got the branding right, which would be like a lot of the elements within that video, right? The text that you use, the colors that you use. So then you're kind of bridging every single video you make, so that the viewer, you're building trust within the viewer, and you're building that consistency. It's funny because they say, you got to be consistent in uploading videos, but you got to be consistent in your message, and you have to be very clear as well. So there's so much to that. But now, so tell me a little bit about how we can use branding within the videos to help viewers relate, to help viewers remember you, to help them down that process of buying from you.
Yeah. So I think the first step for people, if they're just getting into this, is to recognize, one, having content is going to either bring customers to you or drive them away. So the kind of content you're producing is going to be a moment of, am I establishing a consistent brand, or is the content I'm creating so scattered that people don't know what to think about me, and then they walk away? And so if for example, I show up and I'm dressed to the T's, and I look like I'm about to walk down the red carpet one day, and you see a great video of me doing that, and the next day I'm dressed gangster style with piercings all over, you're going to be like, is this the same? Is this the same? It doesn't even look like the same company. I'm getting a totally different vibe. There's something to be said for consistency. Humans like consistency.
Yes.
So the kind of content you're going to produce, now there's some pillars within that, but the way you talk, the way you present, the background, all of that needs to tell a consistent story of who the organization is.
Yeah, that's great. That is awesome. Now, but you did say something interesting, because I think, this is just my personal belief, I think that branding also pushes, like you said, pushing customers away. But then I think branding is key in pushing customers away as well, because it's the customers that you don't want, you know? Yeah, you don't want to push away the customers that you want by not being consistent with your brand, but then with branding, you can also push away the customers that you don't want.
Yeah, I completely agree. I believe that most reviews that aren't 5 stars happen not because the customer's bad, not necessarily because the company's bad, but because the customer's expectation of what they should have received didn't align with the way the company did business. And so during that vetting process, those things didn't come to light and the customer didn't find the right fit for them. And that usually comes back to a company that doesn't have a strong presence in their brand. So people might think, oh, I can go work with company A and they're this low cost company, when in reality, company A views themselves as the luxury brand, but they don't communicate that. And then the customer's like, this costed way more than I was ever expecting. They were bothering me all the time. I just wanted them to get it done, and didn't charge me much. They charged me a ton. They were constantly pestering me about every detail, and it took way longer than I expected. And the luxury brand's like, well, we want to charge more than the average. We want to make sure the customer's happy, and we're going to take longer to ensure we do high quality. And so from the luxury brand perspective, they're like, we did everything right. The customer's terrible. And the customer's like, they did everything wrong because it's not what I'm expecting. A good brand eliminates so much of that.
So what I'm hearing is clarity. So for the business owner, being very clear on what you want to offer.
Yeah.
And then branding that and communicating that in a way that the viewer wants to listen. So not talking about yourself, but talking about what does the viewer want? What is he looking for? What are his problems and how are you solving them?
And one of the best ways to effectively do this, I think, is to actually write out what your company stands for and put it on the wall and just look at that and make sure that that's true and be like, okay, yep, that's all our things. Then you go in and you identify who you're going to talk to in your videos. And you're going to write it all out, put it on the wall right next to who your company is and be like, are these two a good fit? Could these two be friends if they were two humans? Would they want to hang out together? If the answer is no, then you either need to find a new customer or you need to restructure who your organization is, because they're not going to be compatible. And if they're not, you're not talking to the right people and you're just going to have a disaster. But if you get that right, then you have friends. And friends just hang out together and want to spend more time together, and it just goes so smoothly.
And you know what I like about that is that putting that up on the wall also helps the people working for you understand what you are and your brand, because that's, and that's another thing that I want to touch upon too, is because using YouTube for your videos also helps the people working for you understand your brand and what you mean, because you want to be able to walk away. And if you can't walk away, it's because the people working for you don't understand who and what you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that happens so often where the business owner, they feel like if they have employees, they feel like they're constantly putting out fires and they have to solve every major problem and they have to make every major decision. And oftentimes that comes down to the employees don't understand how they're supposed to act. And because they don't understand how they're supposed to act, they feel like they have to come to you. And when they don't come to you, they're not sure, okay, should I make this? Should I choose this or should I choose that? I don't know, because I don't know how I should act. But once you establish that and you say, this is because I, as the business owner, I am not the business. The business is a standalone entity. And that brand is the personality of that standalone entity. When the employees understand that, they can represent that standalone entity and they'll make better decisions because they know how to represent and who they're representing. And it takes the whole idea off from the owner being the figurehead and representative to this other thing being that.
Let's spend a minute. Maybe let's highlight one strategy that business owners and companies can use to using YouTube for branding.
So the very first thing I do is whoever it is that's doing the sales all day, every day in the company, owner, whoever, employee, whoever it is, you go to them and you say, what are the most common questions aside from price? What are the most common questions that we keep getting over and over and over when people are first having a meeting and first being introduced to us as an organization? What do they ask? And we're not talking about when the company's founded or how many employees. We're talking about either the service or the product. What is it in that area that the customers wonder about? That's where you start with your content, answering those.
That is awesome. And that reminds me of a book I read. It's called They Ask You Answer. It's a great book. And I read it like maybe 10 years ago. And no, maybe it was probably like 5 years ago. I'm exaggerating a little bit on the years, but maybe it was like 5 years ago. And exactly that, you're you're asking your potential customers, they come in with questions and they're asking you questions. And then you're just taking those questions, putting them together and saying, okay, which would be the best to answer? And in that book, They Ask You Answer, is actually written by a guy that started a pool company, of all things, a pool company, a swimming pool company. And he became the largest swimming pool company. He was like just selling swimming pools. And because he would focus on answering those questions. And I think it was on his website. He created a blog, because this is many, many years ago that he wrote the book. He created a blog where he would frequently ask questions. And when people search the internet, what's better, a concrete pool or a fiberglass pool? His website popped up. And now that we have videos with YouTube, that's a great strategy, is just like, okay, what's my cousin? What are they asking? And let's answer those questions with a video and kind of make it entertaining, because YouTube is entertainment. It's called edutainment now, right?
It's such an amazing opportunity. And people will think, oh, YouTube's been around so long. There's already people that have answered that. You're right. But all you have to be is a little bit better at answering it. Maybe you do a better presenting job. Maybe you're more entertaining. And all of a sudden, the old video fades into the background and the new one pops up. Definitely. YouTube does not favor age on videos. That's not part of the equation at all. It's whoever's helping the customer or the potential customer or the viewer the most, that's who's going to get the views, even if your video is brand new.